everybody. Welcome back to Zesty Thoughts, episode 57 with your host, Anabla. I'm welcoming myself back. I did not record an episode last week. I was under the weather. I've been kind of dealing with a little bit of not chronic laryngitis, but I'm working 2 jobs. I'm talking a little bit more in my daily life, and I'm realizing that I need to incorporate a little more hydration, a little more vocal rest, and a little bit more vocal care, essentially to maintain my voice just on a daily basis. Last Tuesday was a little bit rough. I did want to just give myself some vocal rest throughout the week. It helped a lot. I'm also trying to be a little bit more conscious when I speak, to speak with more breath support. Like when I'm singing, obviously, I have pretty strong breath support and lung capacity when I sing. And I realize that when I speak, it's a little bit too casual and I don't speak with that same support. So I'm trying to work on that actively. And for those of you that don't already know, I'm a California native. So I do have a little bit of Valley Girl accent, vocal fry, that I'm also trying to mitigate and be super hyper aware of when I speak, and try to speak with a higher tone, with more air. And it's just been an ongoing thing in my life that I've been trying to work on to take care of my voice, protect my voice, and preserve it for singing, because that's I need it for that, most importantly, obviously, other than speaking. So I took a little break last week. I'm back into the swing of things, feeling great. The weather has been freaking insane. It's been very warm and humid, which most times of the year, at least spring and summer, it's not super humid. Even when we do get rain in California, humidity is not typically a thing. I mean, living closer to the beach, it more so than other areas, but it is a desert, so I'm definitely feeling a little sticky, a little bit warmer on average. I'm the type of person that also runs hot, in general in life. So I'm just kind of trying to get through this. You feel me? Trying to get through the heat. I was taking laundry out of the dryer today, and I was waiting for the dryer to finish, and I was standing outside of the laundry room, and I felt a drop on my shoulder. I was like, is it raining? Is it sprinkling right now? And then I put my hand up to see if I could feel it. And I did feel a few drops. So it was sprinkling earlier. It's super weird. It's very cloudy, but it's going to be 85 today. So the weather's just all over the place. We're just getting through it. We did install a second AC, so that's been very helpful. You feel me? But yeah, that's just the vibe this week, is kind of just borderline exhaustion from the heat, since we're not really used to that heat, at least in this part of LA. And me and my parents were talking about it the other day. We're just so tired and exhausted and not in the mood to do anything. We just want to chill and rot and be in air conditioning. And I feel overall the heat just gets me tired. At least I talked about this in an episode earlier in the summer, that I always forget how much I actually do enjoy summer. Because by the time I'm oh, the vibes, I'm in the thick of summer and enjoying it, the heat gets to a point it is now where it's just so unbearable that I'm no, it needs to end now. I can't take this anymore. I need it to be cold yesterday. It's pretty ridiculous. So yeah, I'm definitely in that phase right now where I'm just can it be cold? Right now, can it be cold tomorrow, please? We're just pushing on through, trying to get lots of good rest and hydration to get through this heat. I have so many random topics for today's pods. I actually have 2 album reviews. I have a TV show review and some updates in my life. This last week, I performed with one of my best friends, Deion. It was his debut show as an artist, and we performed downtown. And it was just such a success. He did such an amazing job. I did some background vocals for him and sang on the song that we're working on together, that we're writing and gonna release together, which is very exciting. and it just did so well, and I'm so proud of him. So I did want to just give a small shout out in today's episode. For those of you that have not seen the episodes with Deion, I'm going to link them in the description. And then I'm also going to link his Instagram and TikTok and all of his socials and his music profiles on Apple and Spotify, so you can go follow and support and be on the lookout for new stuff. So that was very exciting. It was a nice little fun gig. So I was vegan for about 7 years, and since about last November, I have not been, so almost a year now. And I've been eating like fish and eggs again. Since I had ended my veganism, I had not been to bubblegum shrimp. Growing up, my parents and I would go every once in a while, and I would always get the popcorn shrimp. It's literally my obsession. And I was so excited to like try it again after being vegan for so long. So we went to bubblegum on the Santa Monica Pier to watch the Dodger game and like eat some snacks and appetizers and stuff. And I did get the popcorn shrimp, and it was just okay. Unfortunately, it wasn't as good as I remembered it being when I was little. So if anybody has recommendations on places that have fire popcorn shrimp or recipes, I am willing to make some popcorn shrimp from scratch. But if anybody has recs for a place that I can just go and enjoy it every once in a while when I'm craving it, please let me know. I was like a little disappointed. I was like, oh my God, it's been what, probably like 7, 8 years. It may have even been like 10 years since I'd been to bubblegum. Like it had been so long. I was just like, you know what I haven't had in ages that like I eat now? Popcorn shrimp. Did not really hit the spot, unfortunately. I did like that there were like peppers and other like onions and like other things in it with it fried, but I don't know. There was something about it that was off. The flavor of like the batter was good, but something about it I was just not a fan of. So if anybody knows any seafood places that have it, let me know and I'll hit it up and do a little review on the pod for y'all. Okay, on to some album reviews. I listened to Lil Wayne's
Carter 6.
And I'm sorry to like trigger or like offend any Lil Wayne fans, but it was kind of trash. Like I feel like that's a little harsh, but at the end of the day, I literally only saved 3 songs and the album is like really long. Pretty much every song other than the 3 that I saved, I skipped within like 10 or 15 seconds of the song starting, or maybe even 30 seconds of the song starting. I was just like, nope, delete from library, delete from library, delete from library. So I was kind of disappointed. I felt like it was just kind of like a cash grab. To me, the bars were just not Lil Wayne quality. I don't know if it was rushed. I don't know, like the track list selection process, how that went. I'm sure this man has like hundreds, if not thousands of songs just like sitting, waiting to be put out. But I personally feel like it was a fumble. Unfortunately, I'm very, very sorry. I did like Being Myself, Written History, and Banned from NO, but honestly, overall it was trash. So I just want to see if like other people agree with me. You feel me? Maybe I should post it as a hot take on TikTok and see if there's a consensus with people that listen to it. But yeah, I would recommend you listen to it so you can like judge it for yourself, but I also feel like it's kind of a waste of time in my opinion. Anyway, I know it's a hot take. I love Lil Wayne. I love like all his old shit. So I think that's why to me I was kind of like, really? What is this? Like, come on. Like you can do better than this. I think I was just a little disappointed. That's all. But those 3 songs were nice. So do with this information what you will. I'm sorry if I like triggered any Lil Wayne fans. But yeah, it was just not the vibe. On to a more positive album review. Destin Conrad released an alternative jazz album called wHIMSY. When I tell you this album is a no skip, it's a no skip. Even the interlude is fire. Oh, it's so good. I just love alternative jazz. I love like jazz R&B. That's just like my favorite genre. So maybe I am a little bit biased, but I think Destin is like one of the most slept on and underrated like artists like right now that exists. He is so talented. Everything he touches is just like, it has this like sparkle and magic to it. I don't know how to describe it. It's very satisfying music, not only like writing wise, like lyrically. Melodies are very unique, but like not, I feel like he's not like trying too hard. They're just like catchy enough that you're like, oh, coming back for more, but not so much that you're like listening to it every day and like addicted and get sick of it. Sometimes pop music or music like that that's too catchy like gets on my nerves, and it's just kind of like like I wouldn't casually listen to this. This is like the best casual consistent listen. Like I feel like his music overall is just consistently like music you'd want to listen to casually. And it's just so satisfying sonically also. I don't know what producers, I should do some research. I don't know what producers, what engineer he works with. Like, I don't know his team very well. I haven't done much research on that, but oh my God, whatever they're doing, it's literally like a 10 out of 10. They're all a match made in heaven. And this project is so freaking good. I would give you guys like a list of songs that I saved, but I literally saved all of them. I just added them all to my jazz playlist, and they're so freaking good. I guess I'll give a favorite. Let me open up the project. I also just love that the album art says presented by Mr. E. Like, okay, alter ego. Okay. For those of you that haven't listened to Destin's music before, his like most recent album had a song called Mr. E on it, which is fire. So I think that's like his little alter ego that he's tapping into. It's so good. I love Wash Away, song with Terrace Martin. I mean, can you go wrong collabing with Terrace Martin? No, you can't. Like, absolutely fire. I also love the interlude, Ombre's interlude with jazz. I think she actually has an interlude on another one of his albums, but Lonely Detective is so like cheeky and cute. I would just highly recommend going to listen to it. I will 100% be linking that in my bio for the pod today. So y'all can enjoy. If you love jazz, if you like R&B, this is just gonna be your new obsession. I promise you that. I love it so freaking much. Before I transition into my TV show review, I did want to share a really cute photo of my cat, Chelsea Belsey. She was sunbathing in our front window in our living room, and I just wanted to share that. That's it, plain and simple. She's adorable. Thought you should see it. Hopefully that brings a smile to your face. I want to do a formal review of Smoke on Apple TV. This show, 9 episodes, short and sweet. I'm hoping there will be a season 2. This is going to be like definitely a huge spoiler. So I would say pause the pod. If you haven't watched Smoke yet, save this video to like your watch later in YouTube. And then after you watch Smoke, come back to this because I really want to see other people's opinions on like things that I picked up on like the vibes of the show just as a whole. I want to see if other people agree with me. So save this video now if you don't want to be spoiled about the show. Save it to watch later and then come back and watch the rest of this pod. I guess if you're on YouTube, sorry, for audio listeners, download the pod, maybe favorite it or like it or whatever. Save it so that you can come back to it. For audio listeners, if you're not wanting to be spoiled. And then I'll put a short clip here so y'all know where to skip to at the end if you don't want to. You want to just skip through the spoilers. Anyway.
Skip to 28 minutes.
The beginning of this show is definitely a slow burn. Like, it starts out like kind of cute, kind of demure, like just chill. It seems just like drama-esque in the beginning. So the cast is Taron Egerton and co-star is Journey Smollett, who, it's so weird. I like thought I recognized her when they first introduced her in the show. I was like, why do I know this person? Like, what have I seen her in? And then I looked her up and I realized she was in Full House. And I was like, oh my God, I like kind of recognized her from that because I looked at her other like, you know, I have stuff on IMDb and I don't know if I've really seen anything else that she's been in. So long story short, she's the co-star, she's a cop, and Taron Egerton plays an arson investigator, okay? So the beginning of the show, it's an arson investigator that's dealing with like a serial arsonist case. And there's a lot of fires popping up all over. they're getting a lot of pressure to, finish the investigation, find the person that's doing it so they can prevent all these fires and all the destruction and everything like that. Like, obviously, that's their job. So I don't know why, but like the captain or the team, they bring in an officer to help with the investigation, which I like don't know if that's like normal typically in arson investigation, like that police departments and fire departments are like collabing like one-on-one, like as partners. It is what it is, but that's what happens in the show. And there's like some subplot of another character who's like this middle-aged man, works in fast food, like kind of seems maybe like mentally ill or, just depressed or who knows. Something's off about him, okay? So they definitely introduce this character purposefully in order to craft kind of an assumptive narrative around who could be the arsonist, okay? So it's obvious that this character's function in the show is to go, well, okay, these people are investigating this guy is sus, and like, you see this buildup in his life of tension and anger and kind of like people are kind of really mean to him, they take advantage of him, like coworkers are rude to him, things like that. He doesn't land a job that he like a promotion that he wants. There's all these kinds of things that are like eating up at this man's mental state. So you go, okay, well, these guys are investigating this guy is like kind of, things are boiling to the surface with this man's mental state. So like obviously put two and two together. Simultaneously, there are subtle hints to the lead arson investigator's kind of character and attitude and his like kind of exhibiting some like questionable behavior just like as a guy. Like he seems like he's kind of like narcissistic behavior, like maybe like slightly misogynistic. There's just some parts of him that rub you the wrong way immediately. So as soon as I clocked some of that stuff, like the way he spoke with his wife, some of the jokes he made with the police officer that was his partner, Journey Smollett, I clocked it and I was like, this guy is weird. There's something off about him. So, but you have this subplot on the side that's like building up all this tension for this other, random character that it definitely makes you question like, oh, well, it could be him, It's a very well framed, the architecture of everything happening in the show is like a suspense and like kind of a mystery. They did a very good job of like, making you as an audience have conflicting views or conflicting predictions or assumptions about who is this serial arsonist. As the show goes on, you clock a little bit more about this lead arson investigator. He's just making more questionable decisions. It turns out that a previous partner of his from another investigation that was also an officer had essentially been questioning the lead arson investigator. His name's Dave, the character, had been questioning Dave's character and it kind of finding subtle hints to the fact that he might be committing arson himself, which is so crazy. This previous investigator, that had suspicions about him was played by John Leguizamo, and I'm literally obsessed with him. Like, I don't think you guys understand everything that he's in. I just love, he's the best comedic relief in a drama. He just has like a great character to him. I think he's kind of like, in some situations, typecasted as that like goofy, funny, like witty, sarcastic, I don't know, character essentially. And I love him so much. I love him for it. I love that he was in this and he was the perfect like quote unquote like comedic relief to bring a little bit more entertainment into this show. As if you weren't like already on the edge of your seat entertained, it was just like the perfect balance. I feel like he was perfect in the show. So I loved it. So for the current investigation, Dave's partner had some suspicions about him regarding something else, I forget, ended up reaching out to this previous partner of his to see like what the deal is, like to see what his problem was. I don't know, like to do some research on basically background on him because the vibes were off. And then meanwhile, Dave like who's like at this point you can tell he's like class 1 like narcissist, is like writing a book about an arson investigator, obviously, who's like, it's like him personified, in the character that he's writing about. And in these, in these stories about the arson investigator in the book, he's writing about like details about these cases that they've had, these fires that they've literally investigated in real life. And he's writing details about them. He's talking about like hooking up with his partner, the woman, like the current partner. And so she's just like definitely like thrown for a loop. So long story short, to sum like that segment of the show up, basically Journey and John's characters, current and previous partner, they discuss thoroughly what's up with Dave. Like there's something off about him, they come to the conclusion that they do suspect him of being the serial arsonist or just being an arsonist in general, which is so crazy. And long story short, they get the fire chief involved and more of like the police department involved in doing a formal investigation of Dave for these fires. So basically the show comes to like a peak towards the end. Like I said, it's a slow burn. It's kind of like in the beginning, and it just gets like better as you watch it. Each episode comes to a peak at the end. I feel like some of like the sub stories regarding like Journey Smollett's character, like having been in a fire when she was younger, like her mom was like a drug addict and set fire to like a hotel room or something, and like the daughter was in there. I understand for like the context of character development, but like for the conclusion that I'm going to come to, it's not really relevant. So just watch the show, you'll understand. If you've already watched the show, you'll understand, but I don't think it's important to the context, like what I'm going to talk about regarding Dave as a character. And then also the subplot of her like letting her like man die. Like, I don't know, she was like having an affair with like her boss. And he was obviously a prick, and like she didn't know that, but then like came to realize that and like just let him die. I don't really know if that's relevant very much to, my conclusions about the show. Didn't really feel any type of way about that situation. That was like whatever, because I assumed she would pin it on Dave. As soon as I saw this happen, I was like, oh my God, she's gonna kill him. And then not have to worry about like climbing the ladder and like having issues climbing the ladder, because he was like threatening to, withhold her basically progression in her career as a police officer, or, to become an investigator or whatever, because he was higher up and he had a lot of experience and a lot of clout and knew a lot of people. He was threatening to withhold that from her and like fuck with her career. So that solved that problem for her. And then at the end of the day, like they were having trouble like pinning down enough evidence to actually arrest Dave for the fires. As soon as I saw her grab the materials to start a fire in the house, I was like, oh my God, she's going to do this and somehow frame it on Dave. And I was like literally right. So she did end up doing that, which was super freaking satisfying. I was like, thank fucking God. At this point in the show, like episode 7 or 8, as an audience member, you are 100% in full belief, at least I was, that Dave was the serial arsonist. Like there's enough in support of that you would have no argument otherwise as an audience member. Basically, there's no other options available to kind of pull from. So at that point, you totally believe it, So long story short, my conclusion regarding the finale was that Dave is like narcissistic, like probably has like multiple personality disorder, and fully like is another person when he commits these arsons, blacks out, and like either he doesn't remember them because of literally a split personality, like chemically in his brain, because there are some people that experience with like multiple personality disorders, they have like blackouts, like they have lapse in memory when their personalities switch over. Seeing the finale and seeing that the way his character looked the entire time was not actually what he looked like in real life was the craziest and, in my opinion, like the most creative twist ever. They did give us a glimpse earlier in the show when like he got hit by a car and he got in a car accident and he was in the hospital and he was looking at himself in the hospital, he looked different. And I think like me and my mom were kind of like, oh, that's like weird. Like, why does he look different? Does he like actually look like that? Like, what's up with that? So they gave us a little foreshadowing, like a little crumb of that earlier on in the show, but I don't think that I like read too far into it. I was kind of like, oh, that's like weird. Why does he look different? Maybe he's just torn up from the accident and then, he looked normal after. But literally not at all. This man, in my opinion, at least my interpretation of the show, had multiple personalities. What I'm not so sure of is like when he's in this mental state as the arson investigator, Dave, like he's this handsome like hero essentially, because that's what he believes of himself. If he is aware of, like, if Dave, the arson investigator hero, is the one that's committing these arsons, or if his like other personality is doing it, and then he doesn't remember that he does, and then when he is Dave, the arson investigator, like he firmly believes that he is saving the day, or if he's self-aware and he's just straight up like a psychotic narcissist and like is self-aware to the extent that he's like, I'm gonna create fires so that I can have a job to do and I can have people to save or whatever, and I can save the day and I can be the hero. That I don't know if, for me at least, I didn't like sense that was answered in the finale. Regardless, I was so satisfied with the ending, like him looking different. And I think like pretty early on in the show, like even when he's looking like his more handsome self, Dave, the arson investigator, the hero, he looks really creepy. And like I said, it's a slow burn. He doesn't look creepy in the beginning of the show. He seems very likable and trustworthy in the beginning of the show. And then as it progresses, he gets, more angry and more aggressive and just like more hateable and way creepier, like way like you just don't trust him. And so when he like smiles and like tries to act charming, it's just like, oh, like it's kind of like gross and creepy, especially like from his partner's point of view. So the further the show gets, like the further along the show is, like the more creeped out by him you are. And then the finale of the show, it's just his face, like not as, the handsome arson investigator, but as like actually him and like who he is in real life. And he just looks so like bad and creepy. They just have this like prolonged shot of like a close-up of like just his face. And it's the creepiest thing ever. There were so many like tools used in, the filming of this show that were just so satisfying. So just like something that I can appreciate as like, I don't know much about film, I don't make film. It's not like my industry, but I know enough about it that I can really appreciate when it's like very, very well done. Unfortunately, I do find myself in this situation a lot where I'm watching films or television shows and I can easily predict things that are going to happen, or like I can easily see through these like, like these like little Easter eggs or like the foreshadowing. I'm not so sure. Sometimes that unfortunately makes stuff like unenjoyable or like not as stimulating or like a little bit boring for me. Cause I'm like, well, of course you're going to do that. That's predictable. There were some things about the show that I think aired on the side of predictable, but to me there was enough. And then that finale was, that was enough of a twist for me to be very satisfied and just look back on the show as a whole and be very satisfied and like very eager to recommend it. But I don't know if anybody else notices that when they watch like movies or TV. It's kind of like, oh, this is great, but like, duh, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like kind of like, I feel like that's kind of like a rude perspective. It's kind of like, oh, just enjoy it, have fun. But it's like, no, like, catch me off guard more. Work harder, catch me off guard. You know what I mean? And I know that's maybe not the average watcher. I know that maybe not the average watcher is like constantly picking up on stuff. So I don't necessarily know that the average filmmaker is making television or film to really catch the attention of someone that, has a little bit of knowledge about it and like, potentially like people that work in the film industry. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the same thing with music. Like you can tell when something is made by someone that is like really a musician and wants to surprise and entertain musicians, if that makes any sense, versus music that is made just for the public, the masses, for people that like know fuck all about music. I think it's the same kind of thing. I have a really hard time appreciating and enjoying and actually being entertained now by like a lot of film and TV, because sometimes the plot is not enough. Like the plot has to be so incredibly strong and like juicy for those other types of like, tools to not be needed, I guess, if that makes any sense. I'm gonna do like more of a formal review of this show next week in the next week's episode. But for example, like the show The Institute, it's on MGM Plus. It's actually an adaptation from a Stephen King book. But, you look at that and it's like, well, yeah, it's because Stephen King wrote it. Of course, you're like captivated by it because it's either, suspenseful or it's a unique storyline or like something that's kind of twisted. And Stephen King has a really good way of like taking kind of the most mundane, maybe like stereotypical, like suspense or thriller topic and just, egging it up a little bit and making it a little bit more like, ooh, like, keeping you a little bit more on the edge of your seat. The Institute's very, very well done. I'll talk about that in next week's episode. I think they're both satisfying shows, not to like pin them against each other. But yeah, I would highly recommend you go out and watch Smoke. It's on Apple TV. Any of my friends need a login, I got you. Taryn was super creepy as Dave. Like, oh, he's such a brilliant actor. I forgot that he was in Rocket Man. He literally played Elton John, and I was like, oh, and then it made me remember this dude's a Brit, and he's so good at an American accent. You could never clock that he's British, at least in my opinion. Maybe he like looks it. But like, dude, he was so freaking good. And now I like want to go down more of a rabbit hole and watch some of his stuff. Also, Journey Smollett. If anybody has recommendations of anything she's been in or where I should like start, please let me know. Because she was very, very, very locked in. You feel me? She was very much like believable, and her acting was very convincing. So I am definitely really excited to see some more stuff she's been in. Anyway, y'all, I'm gonna wrap up today's episode. I hope that you have a wonderful week and a fun weekend. Stay safe, and I'll see you next week. Bye.